if you've been following me from the beginning and you've been watching my shorts for about a month, you know that I'm getting baptized this week. So this week I've made a segment of videos that I'm going to post every day this week and talking about certain things. So Monday I talked about why I'm getting baptized and what getting baptized means to me. Yesterday I talked about how the things I take for God for granted. And how God pulls me back on track when I get off track. So, not that these are in a specific order, but in order to me, I'd rather you, if you haven't watched the first two videos, go back and watch Monday's video, and then once you're done with Monday, watch Tuesday's video, and then come back and watch today's video. Today we are talking about, some people may think God isn't real, but I've seen enough to where I know God is real. So today we're going to talk about the things in my life that have proved that God is real. And I'm actually really excited about this one because I love talking about the moments that have shown me that. So I am like super excited for this. Don't mind my hair, but yeah, I'm super excited. So let's get into it. Okay, so like I said in the intro, some people don't believe in God because he's never done things in their life. And I'm sure God has done plenty, actually. I'm sure God has done plenty things in that person's life. They just never realized that it was from God. And I do have a couple moments, and after I talk about those each moment, I'm going to give you a little bit of a segment of a video or a photo from that day specifically, and go from there. My first thing that really started my journey, I don't believe I have a photo of this because I don't remember much of it. Well, I don't remember what really happened because I've been following God for so long that everything has been such a blur, and which in a good way. So I don't really know. But the first time that God has really made a movement in my life was, trying to think which one came first. Oh, when I got my Bible, my Bible pens and highlighters and my How to Read a Bible in 1 week. It was the week before Christmas. I actually talk about this in my slideshow that is going to show up when I get baptized on Sunday, so that's pretty exciting. But anyways, one way that God has shown in my life is the day I got my Bible and my Bible pens and highlighters and my How to Read Bible in 1 year book. It was the week before Christmas. My cousin Lindsay has 2 kids. Her son was in the hospital because he had surgery. So her daughter invited me over for the weekend because her mom was in the hospital with her brother, Braxton. I know you're watching this, probably. I don't ever know. So my cousin's daughter, Lindsay's daughter, Elliot, invited me over for the weekend because Lindsay was going to be in the hospital with Braxton. So, and when I talk about this story, I go very out of context and out of things that don't need to be said, or I just need to get straight to the point. But this whole story means a lot to me, so I do tend to go out of context with it or say more than I probably need to, so you're going to have to bear with me for a second. Anyways, Ellie wanted me to come over for the weekend, so her grandma came and got me from the house. And as I am getting in her grandma's car, I get a video from Braxton, Snapchat from Braxton, and he says, I hear him in a wheelchair, like he just left the hospital, like if he's gonna be in a wheelchair, and I hear him say, "I'm leaving the hospital and heading home. I'll see you this weekend, Gracie." And I'm like, oh yay! Right as I'm about to go to his house, he leaves, which is, I'm glad that he did. Braxton's my best friend. I love that kid. So I'm glad that he was there that weekend for that reason. But, I was like, oh, yay, great. So, I don't really remember what happened that night, but we went and me and Ellie, her grandma took us to the store and we got some candy and some snacks. Oh wait, we do have a video from that day because Ellie was dancing to Christmas music in the aisle. I'm giving myself ideas, but we went and got candy and stuff that we wanted, and then we went to the house, and I don't remember really what happened that night. Because it was raining, and all I remember is walking into Walmart and getting desserts, and then Elliot dancing in the aisleway. But, I don't really remember what happened when we got home. So the next day, what I do remember is Braxton's friends were all showing up, saying hi to him. And, which is awesome. Like, I'm glad that they all showed up and were there for him and all that. That was pretty cool. But one of his friends in particular stayed the night, and his sister stayed with him. So it was me, Braxton, Elliot, Lindsay, her husband Jeremy, and then Braxton's friend, and then Braxton's friend's sister. That was all of us. And sometimes, like, I love hanging out with little kids, but when it comes to Lindsay's house, they have a basement downstairs, and obviously downstairs, duh. And that basement is quiet when nobody's down there. They play in it all the time, but when nobody's down there, it's nice to go down there and just gather your thoughts, I guess, because that house is a lot when there's nobody but kids there. So I went downstairs by myself at one point, and I'm throwing the basketball around, and then I started singing. Don't ask why. I don't know. I don't really remember why. And then, so everybody's upstairs doing their own thing. I'm downstairs singing, and they can all hear me through the ear vent. And I don't want to know what I sounded like. I don't care. Don't tell me. I don't want to know. And Lindsay calls me upstairs. Oh, gosh. I feel weird calling her Lindsay because normally I call her Nini, so I feel very weird calling her Lindsay. But it's easier to say Lindsay when I'm explaining it to you guys than it is to call her Nini. Anyways, Lindsay calls me upstairs, and she's like, Gracie May, can you come upstairs for a second? I was like, yeah, I guess. So I went upstairs, and she's holding these 3 packages. And Braxton and his friend were staring at me, but Elliot and Braxton's friend's sister were kind of doing their own thing. And so I kind of just got onto the beanbag, and I sat there, and I basically almost fell off the beanbag. Yes, I'm going in very deep detail right now. And she hands me these 3 packages, and she goes, I want you to open this one first. I'm like, oh, okay, early Christmas present, yay! I opened it. It's my Bible pen and Bible highlighters. And I didn't think anything of it. I just, like, they're pens and highlighters. What am I supposed to think? So I didn't think anything of it. Well, I don't remember much of what order she put them in, but I'm pretty sure my Bible was last, but the pens and highlighters were first. And I'm unpacking these things, and I get to the Bible in a Yearbook, and I look up, and Braxton and his friend is staring into my soul. And I looked at them, and I was like, why are you guys staring at me? And they all went, like, whatever. So then I opened that, and I seen it said, how to read a Bible in a year. And I was like, no, you got me a Bible, because for the longest time I begged and begged and begged and begged and begged for a Bible. And I guess she kind of heard me begging and, like, asking for one and got me one for Christmas a week early. And I was like, no way, you got me a Bible. So I ripped open the last package, and sure enough, my Bible was there. And she had the first page of the Bible, like, when you open it. I should have brought my Bible with me. When you open my Bible, she wrote, like, a bunch of verses on it, and then there's another page that she wrote a letter to me on it. It's pretty great. And she has the year that she gave it to me signed with her initials. And then, so yeah, that moment was when I realized this is something I wanted to do. At first it was, I just want to read the Bible to read the Bible. But before I even got the Bible, I was like, I just want to read it to read it. But the second I got that Bible, I'm like, there's a reason why I'm reading this Bible, and it's not just because I want to read it. So that was one moment when I got the Bible, and I don't even remember when it was, but a couple weeks later, I stayed with Lindsay again, and I'm talking about something. It was either the day she gave me the Bible or a couple weeks after. She said, when I told those kids, which were Braxton, Ellie, and then Braxton's friend and Braxton's friend's sister, she was like, when I told those kids that I was giving you a Bible, you should have seen how excited they were. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. So it was kind of cool to see the fact that those kids were excited, to know the fact that they were excited about the fact that I was getting a Bible. Because because they are all they're Christian, or they're like, I don't really know what it is, but they all do believe in God. So knowing that they were excited kind of like made it so much better for me to know that I do have kids sort of younger than me, sort of the same age as me, so like kids that are in the same boat as me, and it was pretty cool to do that. So I'm going to show you guys a video from that moment. It may not be the moment I got the Bible, but it could be the moment of Ellie dancing in the aisleway at Walmart. I don't know. I have to find the right video, so you'll have to excuse that for a second and have fun. Okay, the next moment I want to talk about is... Oh, I remember what it was. It was my first Christian concert. I gotta be careful because my grandpa's not home and I don't know when he's coming home. And my dad, I don't want anybody to interrupt or anything, so I gotta make sure I'm paying extra attention when a car comes by. So if I zone down, it's because a car is coming by. Sorry, back on track. My first Christian concert. I'm sitting at home doing my laundry and I get this call from Lindsay. And she's like, hey, I have a question for you. And I'm like, yeah. And she goes, so me and, I don't remember, oh, I know who it was, Braxton's baseball coach. Yeah, and he was coming with him to a Christian concert. And she goes, it's first come, first serve. We don't have to buy tickets, and we don't have to pay for anything. She was like, do you want to go? And at first I was like, I don't really know. At this point I already had my Bible. So then finally she convinced me to go. And so I was getting ready and I'm like, what do I wear? Like, I don't know. Like, so Elliot called me. She was like, are you excited? I'm like, I'm so excited, so ready for that. So then they came and got me and I stayed with Lindsay that night. And there at that concert, I think I had the best that was my favorite concert ever, other than Kelsey Ballerini and the Descendants Zombies Worlds Collide tour. But, I loved that concert so much. It was fun. I definitely needed that. I have photos and videos, and like I think I had maybe 2 videos and 1 photo because I was so in the moment. And normally in concerts I take tons of videos and tons of photos, but that concert, with the Christian concert, I was so in the moment to the fact where I didn't even want to be on my phone. So just hearing the songs live and hearing all the people like singing and learning the words and hearing the messages that they were giving, that was another moment that I realized God was in my life. But this one isn't as long, so you guys heard the second moment, so now you get to watch a little, maybe a photo or a video. I haven't decided yet. Enjoy that one. Okay, the next moment is not something that you would think God was in the moment, but looking back at it now, I can tell that God was in the moment when my surgery was scheduled. So, for those of you that don't know, I have a disability called cerebral palsy. This channel has been more than just Gracie's, what is it called? Gracie's Faith Journey, duh. It's been more than Gracie's Faith Journey. At some point it was Gracie May, at some point it was Your Safe Space. It's been so many different things, but this thing I think I'm gonna stick with. So, in both of those, no, in the Gracie May one I talked about my disability a lot. It's called cerebral palsy. It's in both of my legs. I've had it since I was 2. And it's not fixable. It's always in my body, no matter if I got the surgery or not. But when I got the surgery, when I told the doctors, I said, I want to do this surgery. It's the only thing I have left to do because I've done everything else and it didn't work. And it's not that it didn't work, it was the fact that I didn't put in the effort to make it work. So the surgery was really the only option I had left. And I was definitely scared. But, like, we had the longest time trying to book this surgery because they told my mom, I don't remember when it was, but they said the only time we have open from surgery is, like, 3 months from now. And I was like, well, that's not what I want. I want it now. 1 second. Sorry, my dog's eating something and I don't know what it is, and it's kind of grossing me out because I have a feeling I know what it is. But, what was I saying? Oh, my goodness. Oh, yeah, they told me, I don't remember when my mom called, but they told us that, like, the next surgery they could book was like a year from that point, and I was like, no, I want it now, just to get it over with. And then like a month later, I get a text that my mom booked my surgery, and I was like, oh, okay. And then I'm sitting there and I'm like, wait, I prayed for this moment, which is pretty cool, but like sitting in that moment, I wasn't like, oh, this is God doing this. This was the doctors had an opening and they made it work. But now that I sit back but now I'm like, that was God. That was not the doctors, that was God. So that's another moment. And I think I have a video of the day I found out, and the day I told my sister that day, and her reaction, so you guys will get to see that.
It's happening!
It's happening! Oh my god, it's happening! The next thing that I feel like I seen God in, and it's not like in that moment I'm like, this is God. In that moment it was, this is me doing this is nobody else. But now that I sit back now and I think about it, I'm like, that was God. 3 days after my surgery, I was walking. I think it was 3 days. I don't know. I don't remember. But not even a week after my surgery. It might have been a week. I don't remember. But it was very soon after my surgery I was walking. Now I was walking like an old lady with the walker in front of me and both boots on, but I was walking and that's all that mattered. So yeah, that's one moment. You guys get to see that video too. Okay, the next moment, sorry, I have to be quiet because my dad's old and he gets very weird when it comes to phones. So you're gonna have to stay with me if I look a little off. But anyways, my next moment is kind of the same. My phone keeps moving. The next moment is the same as last moment, kind of. I was sitting in bed one day. My mom was cleaning the house. I still had my boots on, and it's just like it was a month after I walked with the walker. And I'm sitting in bed, and like my room was clean. Not that I cleaned it, my mom cleaned it because I couldn't do much because I haven't walked without the thing yet. And it was hard to walk and clean with a walker. So, my mom cleaned my room, and after she left, I'm kind of lying in bed. I'm like, I don't want to be on my phone. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. I don't really want to read my Bible because it's too far away, and I don't feel like getting up and getting it. So me being me, I'm like, I'm just gonna stand up and walk. So, like I said, I was out of my mom's sight. My mom was out of my sight, and I start standing up and walking without my walker. And I walked out of the living room and I said, Mom? And she looks over and I'm like holding on to the wall for dear life, trying to make sure I don't fall. And she goes, what are you doing? I don't know, I got bored. So then I'm like walking back and forth from her room and then back to my bedroom. And then I laid on bed and I was like, I just walked. And in that moment, I wouldn't tell you that was a God moment. I would tell you that was, I'm bored, let's walk moment. But sitting back and looking at it now, that was a God moment. Because if God didn't put the thought in my head of, I'm bored, let's get up and walk, I would have never got up and walked. So yeah, that was that moment, and you get to see a little video there. Rang the bell for cancer. So my grandma had esophagus cancer, which is like in your throat. And when I found out she had it, I was a very emotional person because my grandpa had cancer and he passed away. So a lot of my family has passed away from cancer, and everyone has had a different type of cancer. So my first thought when I found out my grandma had cancer, what do you think my first thought was? I'm not going to say it because I don't want to say it and don't want to think like that. But I can guarantee after hearing that most of my grandparents have passed away from cancer, what my first thought would be when it came to my grandma. So that moment when she rang the bell, I knew all the moments that I prayed for my grandma were definitely worth it, and that's the time that I figured out that God does answer prayers. there's some prayers that he doesn't answer, and there's a song by Garth Brooks, I think, that it says some of God's greatest gifts are unanswered prayers. And I say that all the time, because before this moment, God never really answered any of my prayers because my prayers were stupid and repetitive and had no meaning behind them. I was just saying random words. So, knowing that all those prayers that I prayed for my grandma and he answered them, that's the moment that I knew God was real. And watching her ring that bell, I was like, that praying was worth it. It definitely was. So, yeah, you get to see a video of her ringing the bell now. Okay, my next moment is watching my cousin Elliot get baptized. That, I think, was the moment that I knew I wanted to get baptized. Just watching it happen and being there in person was different than watching it on TV, because I did watch it on the TV when I got home. But hearing all those people in there and how loud we were singing and how loud we were cheering and just the moment in general was awesome, and that's the moment I knew I wanted to get baptized. I was just too scared to admit it. So that's a moment that I knew God was working in me in a way I never thought he would. So there's a video for that. Okay, my next moment that I never realized it was until now, just thinking about it, 2 days before I said the big yes, I went to Royal King and they had a bunch of Christian shirts with a bunch of crazy sayings on the back. Not crazy, awesome sayings, and they were super meaningful, and I took maybe 10 of them. And as I'm shopping for those shirts, this lady walks up to me and she goes, "I was wondering if you wanted a free Bible." And I said, "I would take it, but I have one at home." So, yeah, and I wear those shirts every Sunday, which is pretty cool. I love those shirts a lot. They're pretty awesome, and you're going to see those shirts in a second. My next moment is the day I said the big yes. It was front row on August 3rd on a Sunday morning. And it was that point in service where the pastor asked any of us in the church if we haven't said the big yes yet, do we want to say the big yes? And if we do, we had to step up in front of everybody and say it, because the church believes that it's a public declaration, and it definitely is. And so I'm front row kind of hesitating. I'm stepping forward, and then I'd step back, and then I'd step forward. I'd actually talked about this before in one of my other videos. And then I'd step back, and then I'd look at Lindsay, and then I'd look at Ellie, and then I looked at Lindsay, and they both asked me if I wanted them to walk up with me, and I didn't respond because I was so nervous. So then this one lady was behind me, and I think God put the thought on her heart that I needed somebody to go up there with me. So she came up behind me and she goes, "Do you want me to go up there with you?" And she went up. I told her yes. She went up there with me. I said yes. I cried while I said it. Everybody clapped for me. And as I'm walking out of the worship room to go sign up to have somebody walk beside me for this decision, everybody's smiling at me and giving me thumbs up. And it felt pretty good. And that's when I knew that God knows what he's doing and it's not stopping. My next moment is when I decided to turn my YouTube channel into a Faith Journey YouTube channel, which is what it is now. I didn't want to, but I wanted to, because the videos are the only way that I really express myself, which we've learned that in the very first video that I did this week. So, I prayed. I don't remember what I did, but I was very hesitant about making this YouTube channel. But when I did, I'm glad I did, or else I wouldn't be here right now telling you guys about it. So, but it was definitely a God moment when I decided I wanted to. So yeah, that was another God moment. my next moment is the day I went to the Descendant Zombies World Collide tour. When we first thought about it, we were like, no, the tickets are too expensive, not happening. But literally a week before the show, we bought tickets and we went, and hearing those songs live healed the inner child of me in more ways than I can explain. And if you're not a believer of God, you say, well, that's just luck. And I'm like, no, that's God finding a way to heal the inner me that needed to be healed, but I had no idea that needed to be healed. So I take that as a God moment very deeply. Because hearing my own way live was awesome. Just being there in general and being like, oh my gosh, I'm in the same room as Freya Sky and Malachi Martin. I was like, oh, that's so crazy. Or Felicia Martin. I was like, this is crazy. Pinch me, I'm dreaming. So that was definitely a God moment. It definitely healed me in more ways than one and more ways than I thought it could. So yeah, that's my God moment. You're going to see a couple photos now. And the last one with the day I made my YouTube channel. You guys aren't going to see anything of that. Well, you probably didn't see anything of that because you were literally part of it, so I can't really... I might show like my little lip sync videos that I made in the beginning, and you'll see some of those. I don't know. Maybe. We'll see. Okay, my next God moment, and probably my last, I don't really remember, was when I got invited to the Labor Day festival in West Liberty. Hearing those people sing those songs and getting my own church service on I don't remember what it was. I don't remember. It was either a Sunday night? Yeah, it was a Sunday night. Hearing that on a Sunday night when I haven't been to church in 2 weeks was like the best thing ever. And hearing songs I'd never heard and just being there in general was pretty awesome. Being with different church groups was pretty cool. So I enjoyed that, and that's where I got this bracelet from. This bracelet says God's Girl. That's where I learned about Brookabella. That's where I learned about who else did I go from there. I think it was just Brookabella. Oh, the Afters! Brookabella and the Afters, which is pretty great. The Afters are awesome. They have very fun music. They're awesome. Brookabella is pretty cool. So if you never heard of them, it's Brookabella and the Afters. They are pretty awesome. Go check them out. My next God moment is when I signed the wall at church. This was like 2 months after I said the big yes. And normally when you say the big yes, they have you sign your name on the wall on the date you said the big yes. But at that time, I forgot. I didn't know I had to. So I don't remember when it was, like a week after the concert that I went to with Brookabella and the Afters. I signed the wall, which was pretty great, and I got my shirt, which was pretty great. And just every time I go there, I see my name on the wall, and I'm like, I did that. Like, that was me. Like, it's pretty cool to be, like, one of the first people that signed that wall. So that's another God moment for me. My next God moment is on September 15th when Pastor Jess texted me and asked me if I wanted to get signed up to be baptized, which was pretty cool. And that's the day I posted that video of, should I get baptized? And you have a week till this date to tell me. So yeah, that was pretty cool. But yeah, that's one God moment. My next God moment, I was going through a lot. I got signed up to baptize, and I was going through a lot of, what if I'm making the wrong choice to get baptized? And I didn't pray about it, didn't do nothing. But one morning I had a really rough night, and that next morning I get a text from Lindsay, and it's her telling me that we may be the only Bible that our family ever reads, and we're breaking the chains that half of our family has, and we're going a different path from our family, and we may ever be the only Bible somebody ever reads. And then she sent me a link to a song by Warren Ziders called The Only Bible, and it's literally talking about, if I'm the only Bible you ever read, I'm glad I'm the only Bible you're gonna ever read. I think that's what it really means, but it basically says if I'm the only Bible that you ever read, I'm gonna get copyrighted, so please excuse me. But yeah, that was pretty good. And that was a healing moment, that was a God moment, and I loved it. Okay, my next moment, was when I had my Bible class. It really not my Bible class, my baptism class. It really helped me understand what was happening what's gonna happen when I get baptized this week. And I talked to Pastor Greg. I just almost said Pastor Greg. Pastor Jess about some things, and I asked her some questions, and she gave me really good answers. And the answers she gave me had a lot of meaning behind them, and she made everything like 10 times better than it already is. So that was definitely a God moment for giving me the courage to ask her those questions, because I hate asking questions, so that was definitely a God moment. So yeah. And that was today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed hearing about my God moments in my life that have shown me that God is real. I'm going to end off today with Matthew 19:26, with God all things are possible. Please comment your favorite verse, favorite Bible verse, like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications, and share. And I will see you tomorrow for tomorrow's video. Bye!